Hey 4C, today we're continuing with chapter 43 of Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. Yesterday we left off with Min Lee meeting the old man. And so I'm just going to read that last paragraph where we ended and get reading again. Well, come here then, the old man said impatiently, and he tapped his stick on the ground again. And with a sound like a flapping of a bird's wing, the clay figures moved, clearing a path for Min Lee. I know you have questions for me, the old man said. Every 99 years, someone comes here with their questions, but I will only answer one, so choose your questions carefully. One question? Min Lee almost stopped walking in shock. If she was only allowed to ask one question, she could not ask Dragon's question for him, unless she did not ask her own. Min Lee felt like a fish gasping for air. What was she going to do? The memories of the hard work in the rice fields, her father's careworn hands, the plain rice in the dinner bowls, and Ma's sighs washed upon her like the splashes of water from the lake. She had to change her fortune. She must ask how to do that. But when Min Lee thought about Dragon, waiting for her patiently, it was as if she had been struck, and like seeds falling from Wu Kang's tree, images of the dragon rained upon her. Their laughter as they passed the monkeys, his awkward struggles walking in the woods, his echoing roar as he flung the green tiger into the air, the kind hand he put on her shoulder when she cried, and the hopeful look in his eyes as she left. Dragon is my friend, Min Lee said to herself. What should I do? Min Lee's thoughts bubbled faster and faster like boiling rice. Every step she took seemed to throb, and Min Lee wasn't sure if the pounding was her heart or Wu Kang's axe in the distance. As she passed the clay statues, she thought she could see figures of the goldfish man, the buffalo boy, the king, and Da'afu silently watching her. Min Lee's feet seemed to ignore her pleas for slowness. Like the kite being pulled in, she was being drawn toward the old man of the moon without delay. Before she could decide whose question to ask, Min Lee found herself facing him. The old man of the moon looked at her expectantly, his black eyes as unreadable as the night sky. Min Lee looked down into the open book on his lap. She recognized the open page as the king's borrowed line. The smoothed out folds and the holes she had made in it when she had turned it into a kite were still there. Yet now the paper was invisibly fastened in the book, with only a thin line, like a scar, showing that it had ever been removed. And the words had changed again. There was a single line of words running down the entire page. As she looked, Min Lee realized for the first time she could read the words, or really the word, for the line was only made of one word written over and over again, and that word was thankfulness. And suddenly, like the light when the clouds move away from the moon, Min Lee knew clearly what question to ask. There is a dragon waiting at the bridge, she said. Why can he not fly? Chapter 44. Ma and Ba continued to wait for Min Lee, quietly and sadly. Even though they told themselves that they trusted Min Lee and believed she would return, Ma spent most of her time looking out the window, lost in thought, while Ba grew older and grayer every day. The only time they found comfort was in the evenings when Ba would tell a story to make the time pass faster. In the escape of Ba's tales, they could forget that Min Lee was not with them and imagined that she was there listening. One evening, when the moon filled the sky, Ma spoke. Husband, she said, tonight I would like to tell you a story. Ba was slightly surprised, but nodded. The story that Ma told. Once there was a woman who had a kind husband and a beautiful daughter. A great mountain shadowed their home, making the land that they lived on poor and their house small. But there was always enough to eat, and the water always flowed in hot months, while a fire always burned during the cold ones. Yet the woman was not content. The woman begrudged the barren mountain and the meager land, and swallowed her plain rice with bitterness. She frowned at the humble cotton of their clothes, and sighed in resentment at the tight rooms of the house. Day after day, the woman grumbled. When she heard stories of treasures of gold and jade, she was filled with envy. Why do we have nothing? She sulked in frustration. We have no treasures, no fortune. Why are we so poor? Her husband and daughter worked harder every day, hoping to bring wealth to their house. But the unfeeling land did not cooperate, and the house remained cramped, the clothes stayed modest, and there was always only just enough rice for the three of them. The woman also remained unhappy. Her displeasure grew like weeds, uncontrollable and tangling. The woman was so caught up in her dissatisfaction, she did not realize that she was planting seeds of discontent in her daughter as well. Until then, her daughter had been pleased with their life, but now she began to feel troubled. The rice that filled their bowls began to taste bland. The clothes she had liked for their colors now felt rough, and the house that she had run freely around in had become stifling. Finally, unable to bear the growing frustration, the daughter stole away in the middle of the night, vowing not to return until she could bring a fortune back to her family. And it was only then that the woman saw the stupidity of her behavior. For without her daughter, the house became too large and empty, and she was not hungry for the extra rice. As the days passed in loneliness, fear, and worry, the woman cursed herself for her selfishness and foolishness. How lucky she had been! She was at last able to see that her daughter's laughter and love could not be improved by having the finest clothes or jewels, that joys had been in her home like a gift waiting to be opened. The woman wept tears for which there was no comfort. For all the time that she had been longing for treasures, she had already had the one most precious. Now, wiser, the woman could do nothing but go to her husband, beg forgiveness for her actions, and hope to someday do the same with her daughter. She did not know if she would receive compassion from either, but she vowed she would wait for it. If necessary, she would wait like the mountain that shadowed them. As Ma finished, she sat herself down at Ba's feet. Like a child, she placed her head in his lap. Husband, she said, I've said it was your fault that Min Lee ran away, and I was wrong. I am to blame. Min Lee knew I was discontent with our fortune. If I had not been, she would not have left. I'm sorry. Ba could not speak. The moon outside was so full it looked as if it would burst, and moistness dampened his eyes. He placed his hand tenderly on Ma's head. Ah, good, the fish said. If you make happy those that are near, those that are far will come. Ma's head raised in a jerk. She looked over at the fish and then looked at her Ba, her eyes wide. Did the fish say something? She asked. Chapter 45. The dragon waited. Mornings rose, nights fell, but he did not move from the bridge. Every night the stars filled the sky like snowflakes falling on black stone, and then melted away as the sun mounted. When the sun rose, the red strings of the bridge melted into the sky, and the bridge seemed to disappear. only showing itself again at night. A stingy wind blew in a silver mist, and the cold rock was hard and unyielding. Still, the dragon waited. But on the third night, just as the moon began to slip down in the sky, Dragon saw a faint figure on the bridge. With a joyous roar, the dragon jumped up and the figure became clearer and clearer. Min Li, you are back, Dragon shouted. Did you see him? Did you ask the old man of the moon my question? Yes, yes, Min Li laughed as she hugged the dragon. I asked him, and he answered. So, now I know. I know how you can fly. How? Dragon asked. Min Li climbed onto Dragon's back. With both hands, she clenched the stone ball above his head. Take a deep breath, she said to him, and with a jerk that took all her strength, she yanked the ball off his head. Ouch! The dragon yelped, but then he began to smile. I feel so light, he said, so light and peaceful. Well, the old man of the moon said you would not be able to fly until the ball was removed from your head, Min Li told him. He said it was weighing you down. It was. Dragon laughed and Min Li clutched his neck with her spare arm as he rose into the air. The wind seemed to join their whoop of laughter and sweep them up into the sky as the dragon flew for the first time. The silver clouds embraced them and then parted as the dragon flew through as if he were rippling the sky. The pale moon looked as if it were smiling at them with a soft glow. As they skimmed the stars, Min Li closed her eyes with delight. As they returned to the ground, the dragon asked, What about you? Did the old man tell you how to change your fortune? Min Li was silent. Dragon turned to look at her. What happened? He asked. He did not tell you? I didn't ask, Min Li said. I was only allowed one question. What? The dragon said. You need to know. You've come all this way. We will fly back and you can ask him. Before Min Li could utter a protest, the red cord bridge seemed to shriek, and as they turned to look at it, the bamboo stakes began to rip the ground, leaving ugly slashes as the bridge was dragged away from the land. The bridge jerked violently, the bamboo supports clattering as it was pulled up into the darkness. The old man of the moon will not see me again, Min Li said. He won't answer any question for another 99 years. But you, the dragon sputtered, your fortune, your parents. It's all right, Min Li told him. When it was time for me to choose, I suddenly saw I didn't have to ask it. You didn't? The dragon said. No, Min Li said, and suddenly memories rushed through her. She heard the buffalo boy's laughter as he refused her money, saw the king's generous smile as he willingly parted with his family's treasure, and remembered Da'afu's last words to her. Why would we want to change our fortune? They had said. She had shaken her head in confusion then, but now, finally, Min Li understood all of it. Fortune was not a house full of gold and jade, but something much more, something she already had and did not need to change. I didn't ask the question, Min Li said again and smiled, because I don't need to know the answer. And that is where we're going to stop for today. We'll start tomorrow with chapter 46. See you tomorrow. Bye.